Did you know that the Gardener's Workshop offers online courses? Whether you're a gardener or a flower farmer, we cover it all, allowing you to increase your skills at your own pace. So check out our full list of courses today at thegardenersworkshop.com. The Gardener's Workshop, turning all thumbs green.
Hey friends, welcome to the Field and Garden podcast and my new set. And so you'll be seeing more of my face now, not just hearing. And if you are a regular listener that listens to me on a podcast app, head on over to my YouTube channel and you can actually catch me, my face and the beautiful backdrop that I have. And I'm really happy to bring all that to you. So I'm happy to talk about this subject today that I want us to listen and venture into a little bit, why grow annuals. But before we do that, if you're new here, I just want to welcome you aboard. My name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I am the owner of the Gardener's Workshop, which started out as a little tiny flower farm in the middle of the city back in 1998 that just has flourished since then. And we are so much more. After becoming a crazy flower farmer, I just love growing flowers and selling flowers and the business of flowers and empowering people. I've become an educator, and we are just really living the best career right now, y'all. And I'm just so glad y'all are along for the ride. And so after, 25 years of growing and selling cut flowers to 23 florists, 2 supermarket chains at 3 different farmers markets, a big bouquet drop off for residential and business customers, as well as we perfected our on-farm private market. We stopped selling flowers about 3 years ago. So we are totally focused on you and helping you to grow flowers and to start your business and to get it up and running so that you can go anywhere with it. And you can learn more about all of that over at thegardenersworkshop.com, which makes the Field and Garden podcast possible, as well as we have another podcast called Seed Talk with Lisa and Lane, which is just a great place that we do where that podcast Lane has developed into based on questions that she's the seed manager here at the Gardener's Workshop. And we get constant questions and we answer a lot of those questions and develop topics around it. So check all that out over at thegardenersworkshop.com. So for anybody wondering that's new here, I'm located in southeastern Virginia, and I have no hoop or greenhouses. Everything I do is outdoors in a garden. And so that just helps people to know that no matter where you are, you can do what I'm doing. You might just apply it on a little bit of a different timeline, but I have no hoop or greenhouses, and then all my seed starting in a 10 by 10 room that's in this building that I'm standing in. And when we were in high production for those years, we started well over 100,000 seedlings every single year throughout the seasons. And you can do that too without having a greenhouse. So friends, learn more over at thegardenersworkshop.com. So I want to talk about a subject I don't want to say it's taboo. It's not really taboo. It just seems to be a second-class citizen. So I'll say, let's just already take a little right turn. So when I first started farming back in 1998, I felt like I never really was a real flower farmer because I didn't have much land. Back then we had 1.17 acres and our home and buildings were on that. I had a very small garden. I didn't have a tractor, didn't have greenhouses, didn't have acres and acres. And I didn't feel like I could say, oh yeah, I'm a flower farmer. Yeah, I would say that I'm a gardener that grew and sold cut flowers because I felt just like like I wasn't worthy of that, right? So I feel like sometimes the subject of what to grow as a flower farmer, growing annuals as your primary focus is sometimes treated like that. And I am not saying by any length of the ruler that there isn't a ton of other stuff to grow. I'm just saying that growing annuals has been the path that I have developed and was very successful with for over 2.5 decades. And I want to talk today about why I came to that conclusion, right? And everybody's journey is different. That's the one thing we need to remember about everything, whether it's farming or seed starting or the way you sell or whatever. Everybody's path can be different. No, there is no one right way. And so just take that with a grain of salt. So back when I first started flower farming, you know, we have to remember, y'all, dinosaur years. I barely had internet back then. I was just reading a couple of books and a couple of magazine articles that were leading me. And I was just stumbling. I was literally a new gardener. So I really didn't know anything. And I immediately, as I see so many people do today, thinking, oh my gosh, okay, so first I did grow. I actually launched my career on cool season hardy annuals, better known as cool flowers, right? We didn't call them cool flowers back then. But I learned about flower farming during the summer. I was pumped. I was ready to start my garden, but it was August. So what was I going to plant? Well, I knew, you know, I had figured out that I could plant perennials in the fall, but I wanted more stuff to plant because it was slowly becoming apparent to me that I didn't have a lot of space. If I filled it all up with perennials, I was going to be in a pickle before very long. The first 3 cool season hardy annuals I planted, if I can remember, Indian summer rudbeckia, sweet peas, and a dianthus, which I believe actually was a perennial dianthus, but I did not know that back then. It was called gypsy. It was kind of the color of my shirt. I had way too much of it. Anyway, that's what I launched my career on. And then I started filling my garden up with perennials. And then that first year came. Well, I got those flush of flowers, and the perennials, of course, weren't performing yet. And I just didn't have much space left, so that I did plant some warm season tender annuals. But of course, I planted my entire space that I had available as soon as I could plant in the spring. I quickly figured out that all of a sudden, boom, I had a bunch of flowers. And then I couldn't get to them all, couldn't keep them all weeded, couldn't keep them maintained. And then all of a sudden, one day, I didn't have flowers anymore, especially because I wasn't able to harvest everything, because the way I had done it, everything bloomed at the same time. Not only could I not keep on top of maintenance of the garden, I couldn't get it cut, then I couldn't sell it all. I barely had any customers, y'all. All this craziness just started knocking down the door for me that I needed to do something different. And so I already had some built-in really great pieces of becoming a flower farmer. So when I married Steve and moved into his family's home place here where we are now, there were lots of hydrangeas that his grandma had planted. There were heirloom daffodils. There was lily of the valley. So there was already some nice bits and pieces to build on. But what I quickly became, I can just so remember the one florist that I was selling everything to that first year, how disappointed he was when all of a sudden I just didn't have flowers, you know? And it was just such a large learning curve. And back then, there was no competition. You know, I was the only flower farmer, right? That is not the case for many people today. There are still lots of places that's the case. But for many, you know, it doesn't take you to miss 1 or 2 weeks of having product for one of your customers. There is somebody waiting in the shadows to just step in and pick up your customer, right? So I figured out quickly that I needed a consistent supply of flowers, but I still hadn't really kind of figured that out. And so I want to say here, let's just do a little sidebar, that every model of becoming a flower farmer, because there's people that do it all. There's people that say, I'm only going to grow perennials. There's people that just grow woodies. There are people that just grow bulbs. There's people that just grow annuals like me. I do grow peonies and a few, as you'll hear. I have some other stuff sprinkled around, but every one of those models has hiccups, because what I hear about annuals is that people think that there's so much work. I find that some of those other models that I just mentioned, for me in my situation, are as much, if not more, work with less production out of them. So and then when you mix all of those, which is the road I went down at first. I was planting woodies, I was planting perennials, I was growing tulips and lilies and lots of annuals. Then it becomes incredibly labor intensive, and they're all labor intensive. I don't want to imply that they're not, but when you know you have to do one thing to everything, it kind of makes it manageable. But when you have different things happening at different times and different stuff needs to be done, particularly when you start hiring people, it's much more complicated in that way also. So I have found that finding your lane, whatever that lane is, my lane is annuals, and sticking in it and making that your focus and niche down on it has made it so much more manageable, so much more successful and profitable. And so it just depends on what your journey is. So let's just talk about other things that became quickly apparent to me as I pursued annuals. And really, it's like I didn't think, oh, I'm going to plant annuals because I'm going to learn how to succession plant and have flowers all the time. It frankly became because it was the cheapest way for me to get in and get started, right? And the other thing that I realized is those spaces that I had planted perennials in needed care. They needed to be, I'm in the South. You just look the other way and weeds grow, right? And it doesn't really matter what your mulching system is. It just happens constantly, right? And we have a lot of perennial weed pressure here. So what I realized is that, like, okay, half my garden is consumed by perennials. The other half is annuals. And I just don't have enough space to plant enough annuals to get a lot of, these guys over here bloom in, Mother's Day, my peonies and the other things that were planted over there. They're done, but I can't use that space again. And it quickly became apparent to me that if I wanted to squeeze the most dollar bills out of the smallest space, I needed to be able to grow more annuals. I still hadn't grasped the succession part of it, of being able to flip. My goal is to get 2 crops out on almost every bed on my farm every year, some 3. But what I realized back then was that annuals just bloom longer. You keep cutting them, except for those single stem things, they keep producing, right? So you have a longer window of harvest, and that's like perfect for the small space farmer, which is yours truly. So now our farm, I was able to purchase an adjoining, believe it or not, in the middle of the city, y'all. And next to me was a 40-acre horse boarding farm, which was developed ultimately. But we had the opportunity to buy 1.5 acres. So my little 1.17 farm went to 2 3/4 acres. And that's what really flipped and allowed me to go volume. But still, I chose, because I had already by that time learned that constant supply comes from annuals. And I started learning there are a lot more annuals beyond zinnias and sunflowers, although those 2 are in our top 10 cash crops for all these years, y'all. You might think they're simple, but guess what? People love good quality, consistent supply of those things. So I discovered that annuals were not only a good producer, they were a great opportunity for me to learn how to farm. If you're a gardener, you think you're coming into this with, an A+ on your shoulder. I'm here to tell you, I think the more experienced you are as a gardener almost causes you a longer journey to get to the end of being a good flower farmer, because farming and gardening are so very opposite of the way that you actually do things and what's important and the steps that you actually take. So with annuals, I was able to learn quickly how to farm. Weed prevention and maintaining pathways. And when you screwed something up, guess what? All you had invested was some seed money, literally, and a little bit of your time. You could actually make hiccups and screw ups and not feel the devastation you feel when your lily crop that, you spent we used to plant, I think it was 250 LA hybrids every week. I forget for how many weeks. I think each bulb's like 40 or 50 cents. You can do the math. Big investment, right? You can quickly be sick over your loss of allowing the deer to eat them or anything like that. So growing annuals get you how to farm, how to run the maintenance, how to seed start. People look at our seed starting now. I show off some amazing transplants, right? I show off the ones I screw up too. Y'all, it was not always this way. I'm going to do the math, but over 25 years, I am sure that I have started millions of seeds, and I'm pretty sure I have killed 100,000. So, starting annuals over and over and over again perfects your game and gets you ready if you want to become a perennial seed starter, which is much more challenging. It's the runway. I feel like annuals are the rock foundation as the runway for any flower farmer. I found that for my situation, I never needed to run way to anywhere. I was there. I perfected what I actually did. And also, to build your farming business, y'all. You need customers. If we're new together here, you may not know that I came into the flower farming business I was the office manager of a very busy animal hospital, like 20 employees, 4 to 5 doctors, phones on hold 24/7, people in front of you waiting, intense, high demand. But I knew that you always wanted people on hold and people standing in front of you waiting for you to give them something. So I actually built my business from the beginning by having more customers than I had flowers. And there's this kind of challenges with that, but worse than that is having a lot of flowers and no customers, right? Growing annuals allows you to woo people with lots of samples. It allows you to not sell them and do other things with them, and to build your business through marketing, and you don't lose the farm. It's just some seed money. Learn and get your customers. Annuals are the runway to a great flower farm and business. And most of all for me, I started on a bootstrap, budget. I had less than $1,000. I tell people now in my flower farming course that, if you don't have a couple $1,000s to start your farm, then you need to get a side hustle part-time job and get it. Sell something, do something. You got to have some literal seed money, but it's for more than seeds. You have to have that money to start, and you can do it. I hear people talk about you just cannot get in for less than $10,000 or $15,000. And that's just a very different model. That may be true for the way that they did it, but that was just not the case for the low, slow entry into starting a business, which we have seen over the decades, that those people that take the low road and go slow and learn and build organically. And I don't mean organic like in pesticides. I mean organically, like learning, and that evolution just builds you a great business that has a rock foundation. And annuals are just a great way to do that, because even the expensive seeds are a low investment compared to other methods and investments. You can start in the spring, plant and seed, and have flowers in just 3 months. Right? You can get in, and it maximizes your production space. So I mentioned earlier in my 6-session planting plans, I always want to get 2 crops out of a bed, 2 turns, I'll say, sometimes 3. That makes the most. And where we are now on my farm, so at the most I ever farmed on at one time was 1.5 acres of working cutting garden. And we were producing like 15,000 stems of flowers a week. And how do I know that? Because we had to invoice every customer we sold to, mostly commercial customers, right? What I learned, the bigger my garden get, the less efficient we were. So then we've gone back down. We're going smaller and smaller. We don't even need 15. We don't even need 5,000 stems of flowers a week for imagery. And like the stuff you see behind me, these are flowers that were just harvested. We have buckets and buckets of flowers sitting over there that I use for other things, our shop and show, and for videoing and courses and books and all that kind of stuff. But what we're learning as I'm niching my garden down, we're getting incredible volumes from a small space. Why, friends, would you grow on 1 acre when you can get the same volume of flowers out of 1/2 acre? It's less weeding, less walking, less everything. Right? So you just got to think, you just have to stop and think the big picture. And here's the sleeper bonus. You have the constant opportunity to change the flowers that you grow, the colors that you grow. Thinking about, we start, spring colors in spring, hot colors in summer, and fall colors in fall. That constant changing also allows you to discover a seed, and you still have time to start it. You know what I mean? It's just such a different journey. I just feel like the annual system is misrepresented because people just haven't really gone full board with it like they have perhaps with some others. And I'm saying there is nothing wrong with growing perennials and woodies. There is a lot of investment up front, but a big reward. It just takes time for it to come. But what I think most growers that are coming in don't understand is those things require maintenance and work also. And when you get your, what I call the annual system down, we feel like here on our farm, my farm is now run by myself and Bobo usually has a sidekick helper on 2 8-hour days a week in season, cutting. When there's a work day, there's a cutting day. And we do it because we're constantly seed starting, we're constantly planting, we're constantly cutting. It's like we're never doing 100 of anything. We're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it makes it very manageable and very doable and with a great end result. And, lastly, what I want to say about this is that a little known reality of being an annual farmer is that this style of farming is an asset to your home. And so I can literally stop farming at any minute and just plant some trees and some shrubs around my property and go on with life. I don't have a lot of structures outside that have to be, I have been to many farms that have abandoned structures. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that there are even more benefits. And I do feel like my home and my family's lifestyle has been enriched by annual farming because there's just this constant beauty and it's ever changing. I was walking this morning, Tucker and I go for a walk every morning, and one of the other dog lady walkers, she said, Lisa, I just feel like I am in the Swiss Alps when I walk past your place. And not that I wouldn't associate a garden blooming with the Swiss Alps, but to her, that's the feeling that my garden gives her because there's always just so much beautifulness blooming out there. And that just really that's my point. That's the way that I really wanted that all to go. And so I just really wanted you to understand that annuals can be a pathway. And we have a great resource that has just come out. It's a webinar about the 3 foolproof steps to success with cool flowers. And it's in the show notes. You can request the webinar. If you are struggling, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I plant warm season stuff, but my window is so short. Friends, when you marry warm season to cool season and get your whole annual system going, we have blooms here from late March, early April, right up till frost. And that webinar is just really going to open your eyes to that. Just one more piece of the pie, right? Along with the Cool Flower book. Then, of course, we have the Cool Flower course, which is Cool Flowers from Seed to Harvest, which features 36 different cool season hardy annuals. This is a family of flowers, which is, first off, our biggest cash crop was for the last 10, 15 years of our business. Highest demand season. It's our biggest cash crop. It's the easiest time to sell flowers. And when you marry those cool season hardy annuals that are known as cool flowers in with your warm season through summer, and then again, you can get some in the fall if you want to. Once you got a little experience under your belt, it'll just change your business and just make it an opportunity where you can. And I tell you something else about being an annual farmer. If you needed to take a year off, let's just say at my age, a parent gets sick or something like that, which happened to us, or you have kids and it's a summer of craziness and you're just going to take a year off. Guess what? With annuals, you can do that. You do something to your garden to hold it, whether that's cover cropping or tarping or whatever. There's just a lot of options that I think that people don't think about. I would love for you to get the webinar. And so that is in the show notes. And friends, being an annual farmer is really okay. It's kind of cool, I think. And love for you to join with me. All right, friends, remember you can learn more about the work that we're doing and everything you hear me mention over at thegardenersworkshop.com. There are blogs, podcasts, our online garden shop, a fully stocked online course library opportunity for you. And because our mission is to empower you to grow cut flowers and to launch, start, or hit reset on your flower farming business. Because I just think it's a great way to live. And I've totally embraced it and love it. And I want to help you love it too. All right, friends. Ciao.